And thanks to you at home for joining us this hour. Think Moby Dick. Think 19th century whaling ship. Think the poor people who I work with who sometimes have to dress up like this at work. All right, our little 19th century whaling ship here has spotted a whale. Hooray! We are out to catch a whale, and there's a whale. They row out to where they see the whale, and they get themselves up alongside it in their boat, and that's where the dude with the harpoon comes into it. Hi, Andy. He gets up in the front of the boat, and he throws the harpoon, and he hits the whale, which of course is very, very sad for the whale. But it is exactly what our whaling boat crew is trying to do. So hooray for them, they have harpooned the whale. Now here's the thing. The harpoon has a rope attached to it, and they tie the rope onto the boat. By virtue of that rope and that harpoon, that little whaling boat is now essentially tied to a very angry whale, which weighs what, like 40, 50, 60 tons? And the whale, because it has been stuck with the harpoon, inevitably takes off swimming. And because the boat is tied to it, the whale is towing the boat behind it at speed. The whale has just taken off now across the ocean, dragging our little 19th century crew in their wooden boat across the waves, going more than 20 miles an hour. Our whaling boat is essentially water skiing behind a wounded, furious, huge creature. A creature that doesn't look like it here, but in real life is way, way bigger than them. If that Leviathan creature tires out and they are able to complete the kill, our little crew is going to be the richest crew on the ocean tonight. They got their whale. But if something goes wrong, like say the whale doesn't get tired and it runs away with them on this Nantucket sleigh ride over waves the size of houses, how long can the crew survive that in their little boat? And worse, the whale, if it is big enough and strong enough, the whale could decide to sound. When a whale sounds, that means it is diving deep to the bottom of the ocean. If a whale is tied to a comparatively small whaling boat and it decides to dive down, down, down to the deepest of the deeps where the giant squid live and sailors die, if the whale dives deep and brings that boat with him, all those sailors on the whaling boat are going to die at the bottom of the sea, which is where the captain comes in. As that boat is flying across the ocean at 20 miles an hour over giant waves, being dragged through the sea behind 60 tons of righteous whale fury, our heroic whaling boat captain has one last thing he can do. If he thinks that whale is going to sound, if he thinks that whale is going to kill them all by dragging them down, he can use the most important tool that he has on the ship. He can use his whale boat hatchet. He can use that as a last resort to cut the rope if he needs to do it to save their lives. Tucked under the bow of every 19th century whaling ship was that tool of last resort. It is up to the captain to wield that hatchet when it is necessary, to decide that even if it means we're not getting a whale today, the crew is not going to die because the whale dragged them to the bottom of the sea. It was the hope of every scurvy, bow-legged, barnacle-back whoever took to the sea that the captain would cut that rope when the time came. Do we trust the captain to cut the line? Will he give up the chase even after all this effort? That is a simple fable with music down. Ah, thank you. Simple fable with an obvious moral. Do you trust the captain? You would not think of attaching yourself to something with the size and speed and strength of a whale without having the means of getting unattached, right? But only the captain gets to wield that means of getting unattached. Only the captain has the hatchet. So you better trust him, right? You better trust the captain to know just how much risk you can bear on your little boat before it's time to stop trying. It is time to stop trying to get this thing you so badly want because of the harm it's going to do to you if you hold on to it. You have to trust the captain to know how much harm is too much harm and too likely to be harm. You have to trust that captain to know when your quest needs to be over. It's time to go. In Washington these past few weeks, that has been the surface level question, right? Is John Boehner a good enough captain? Does he recognize that he has the hatchet? Does he know when and how to use it to stop the plummet to catastrophe if that is where we are heading? It's an interesting question, right? Still unresolved 8 days into the government shutdown. It's an interesting question about whether or not he has the captain's wisdom and judgment on that ship. Will he cut that line if they need that line to be cut? Because they're all gonna die if they don't. Interesting fable, right? Simple, moral, interesting fable. Now we have a new problem on our ship. Now we have a whole new modern twist that they never had to deal with on a 19th century whaling ship, which is that the crew on our ship does not think that the captain has to cut the rope ever, no matter what. Turns out the crew is bonkers. The captain sees that the whale is ready to sound, go down to the bottom of the ocean and drag the whole boat down with them. The captain stands ready to cut the rope, but the wackadoo crew says, no, don't do it. We would rather ride this whale all the way to the bottom of the sea. We would rather go all the way to the watery depths because we heard somewhere it'll be no big deal. We think we have human gills that'll work just fine down there. And we also heard the bottom of the sea is not all that bad a place to be this time of year, and maybe we'll make friends with the giant squid. How does it affect the judgment of the captain if his crew is screaming at him and struggling with him that they don't want to be saved? Because John Boehner's crew, his Republican caucus in Congress increasingly, does not want to be saved. They see no risk. Why cut the rope when everything is going to be fine?
This talk about default by the U.S. Treasury is nonsense. We are not going to default on the public debt.
Republican Congressman Joe Barton explaining that it is nonsense to worry about hitting the debt ceiling.